Howdy everyone, and welcome back to this tutorial series. So far we are able to display the jobs, at least the job title for each job on a specific page for each job. So if I go back here and I click on another job, I click here and I go to a different one, well, we are able to get the job displayed on each page. But the bulk of the information, apart from the title, in the console log, well, that's not where we want the data to be displayed. We want them to appear in the front end for the user to see and interact with them, right? So in this tutorial, we're going to see how to style this page with Tailwind CSS. And just like we did for the job card component, we are not going to live code in this tutorial. And I'm just going to walk you through some of the things that we did here, especially that this is not the Tailwind tutorial. At the time of recording this tutorial, or when you watch this video, there will be plenty of Tailwind tutorials on the channel that you can see, and one of them will be covering exactly how to do what we're going to do in this tutorial. So I'm going to switch to the feature branch, and immediately you see that the changes are there. We are displaying the component nicely. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the code to do this. As you can see, some of the things are displayed as object here, and there's a reason for that we're going to talk about in subsequent videos, right? So for now, I will just walk you through the main things that are happening in the code to display the job like this. Okay, so let's go to the code and let's have a look step by step what's going on. So I'm going to collapse some of these so we can walk through it one step at a time. Okay, so first of all, you can see that we have a big canvas here. I'm just gonna, like I said, this is not a Tailwind tutorial. I'm going to walk through the main things. For example, this max width 7XL is basically telling that we want this like, it's basically telling the size of the elements. So if I put here, for example, to XL only, you see it's gonna shrink. You see it shrinks. Okay, we definitely want that back. Okay, so that's one thing. And you can see that inside, you can see first of all that it's a flex element and it's a flex call. Okay, so things are and it's a flex call when we are on it's flex call on mobile, and when we are on desktop, it's a flex row, right? So already it tells you a lot. All right, so for example, if I go to the component and I look at it on the mobile version, you see exactly, right? So you see that it's a flex column, right, as you can see. So if I close that and I go back to the desktop version, you see that it's a flex row, which is the default version. Now if I get inside of this one, you can see that we have two sections. One section is the main content here, the main area. Okay, and you can see also that you're displaying the related jobs, and the other thing is the sidebar, which is this area here. So if I, for example, come here and I open this, you see that, okay, the first thing within that the main section is the back to jobs element. Okay, which is what we have here. Back to jobs is basically has a chevron icon inside. It's a link. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but it has a margin at the bottom to say that, yeah, we wanted to leave some space between that. So if I increase that, I put that to 60, you see that the space is going to increase massively. Exactly. So I'm going to go back to 6. Right, I'm going to close this. Like I said, I'm just walking you through very quickly through each element. And then here we have this section here. I think it's quite straightforward. It's basically a text element, and with the semi-bold font for things that we want to highlight. So for example, we want to highlight the job category, so we put that in a semi-bold font, in a semi-bold font. Same thing for the date. Okay, and then the next thing after that is the title of the job, right? And we want to put that in the header and alongside other important attributes. So we put that in the header, like group element, and inside we have a h1 tag that has a big font. Basically, this text to XL is a big font. So if I put this to small, you're gonna see that it's gonna shrink massively and it's gonna be very small. Okay. Oops. Is it? Oh yeah. I'm looking at it. Let's look at it in a desktop version. You see, right? So that's it, and it's responsive also, right? So meaning that this text is a bit smaller on mobile than it is on desktop. And the font, again, this is a bold. We want this to be very, very bold. That's why we put it here like this, right? So, and the color, we want it to stand out. So if I put this to 100, you see it's not going to stand out anymore. It's not even visible anymore, but we definitely want that to stand out. Okay, and that's why we put it to 800. And for the important details about the job, you see this is a flex. When we are on a desktop viewport, it's a flex element, and everything inside. As you can see, I think we covered this already. When we looked at, it's basically the same thing that we are doing in the job card. We're just copying it here, with the difference that this time we're adding inside of it, in the left side, the second attribute that you're doing, the second thing that you're doing is the skill tags, which you're going to cover in a bit more detail at the moment, because we are not fetching, we're not adding these attributes in the job reducer. Remember, in the data layer, there's nothing that tells about like skills. There's nothing, right? So that's why, just for the sake of this demo, just so you can see, I also add this thing here that is just dummy. Okay, it's basically displaying the same thing that would have been displayed if we had a skill, right? It's just dummy, right? So and that's it here, as you can see. Okay, and then if I close this one, I'm almost done with the left side. Okay, and then the right side is the same thing that we had in the job card tutorial. So I'm going to close this whole thing here like this, and then we're going to see the this is basically what is being displayed on. If I scroll again and I close this, you see that this thing in the desktop viewport doesn't show. Okay, it doesn't show at all. So if I remove this, you see that we're going to have another extra element displayed here, right? But we don't want this to appear. We want this to appear only on mobile version. And likewise, the sidebar, okay, the sidebar doesn't appear on desktop. So if I go back to the sidebar here, you will see that the sidebar, when we are by default, it doesn't show on mobile version, right? It only shows when we are on desktop, right? That's exactly what we're doing here. So if I, for example, go to the mobile version, okay, it's the mobile version, and I remove this hidden, okay, we are going to see the sidebar, right? I'm going to see the sidebar somewhere here, right? This is the sidebar, this is that sidebar element, okay. And to prove it to you, let me add maybe some text there. Let me add some, maybe like sidebar like this. See, this is it. This is the sidebar. Okay, obviously we don't want that, and we don't want this is what is called responsive design. So like some items you want to appear in the desktop version, some you want to appear in the mobile version, and yeah, it's you have to make things responsive. So I don't know if there's anything outstanding that I want to cover here. Like I keep saying, I don't want this to become a Tailwind tutorial. There are plenty of at the time of you watching this, there'll be surely plenty of Tailwind tutorial on the channel, so you can go into more details if you're interested in learning how Tailwind works. But one thing that's interesting also is to note, because it's relevant for subsequent tutorials, is that for each job you're also displaying the related jobs, right? So if I come here and let's look at related jobs, you see. So after displaying everything that we have, and a lot of the things that we're displaying here are rich text sections. So the related jobs, the remuneration package, responsibilities, the about you section, and the role, basically the job description. Okay, so let me collapse this as well. Company info. All right, so we have a lot of things, and after each of them we have an HR. This HR is basically like a horizontal line. That's what the HR is for. And you give the color, okay, the color of that line. So if I put here, for example, indigo, you're gonna see that one of those lines is gonna become indigo, and I think it's this one here. And to prove it to you, let's say margin Y, let's increase this to 60. See, a big margin now, right? So let's go back. Okay, what I want to emphasize on is the fact that for each job we are also displaying the related jobs, and for that we are using our good old friend, the job card component, which we are importing here, right? The job card component that we import here, and then we just simply reuse nicely. And you see the job, the related jobs, if we do have related jobs indeed, meaning that the length is a true t value, meaning that it boils down to a boolean that is true, and it will not boil down to true if it's 0, okay, or if it's null. That's why if it boils down to a true t value, then we want to render this whole section, which is basically the related jobs, right? So the related jobs, and for that we use our good old friend, the job card component that we created and styled a few tutorials earlier. I think I'm gonna stop the video here. I hope you learned something new. Again, there are plenty of tutorials on the channel about Tailwind and how to style things and design things with Tailwind, so have a look. I'll put the link in the description, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.